I'll tell you, when they was building that track, I was sitting over there on some stumps they'd sawed out, trees they'd sawed down, and like a kid waiting for Christmas, you know. I couldn't wait for them to get that thing done, to get up there. And that first night was that was really something. I didn't race the first night, but I was there till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning pushing cars out of the mud. It was terrible.
Emery Man.
I remember the night I hit Emery Man in the hind end. It was so embarrassing that I couldn't hardly. We had a team race. Now, Emery Man was a good driver too. I can remember that old 8-ball Chevy just screaming. The only guy I ever knew that shifted cars on the straightaway at Stateline, because he whined that thing out, man. But anyways, we had a team race up there, and I had an old 49 Ford, and I was racing with Eb Young. So each part of the team had a race for a little while, so many laps, you know. But anyways, I was out there, and we was motoring around there on a caution flag because they had a big wreck or something there, you know. I'm looking up the stands, look to see where my family is up there, and I turned around and everybody had stopped, and I hit him right square in the back end. Motor mounts broke on that Ford, and the motor went forward, and it stretched the throttle out, and it was screaming, and I looked at, of course, Emery, he turned around and looked, and I went, brakes failed. I never even got to the brake pedal. I hit him, but I hit him pretty hard right there. Good thing it wasn't more than 10 miles an hour.
Kenny C. still recalls vividly his first night on the track. It was at the old Stateline Speedway on the hill above Sugar Grove.
To say I was a little bit nervous because I'd wanted to race a lot, and so we threw this whole car together, and it was a Chevy Coupe, and went up there. And, you know, I didn't do so good in the heat race, and I didn't do so good in the semi. And so they asked me if I wanted the pole or the back end in the feature. No, I wasn't taking no back end. I wanted to be up number one, mistake number one. But when they went to start the race, they were playing the national anthem or whatever. My leg, I was trying to hold the clutch down, it was shaking so bad I thought the car was going to fall apart, you know. Probably my jaw and everything, but it was really exciting. And we got going there a little bit, and I messed up and caused a restart, and the next time we got going again, and I messed up again, and so it got shoved out of the way. So they didn't want to put up anymore with that stuff. So, but it was quite an experience, anyways.
Kenny Johnson was about 3 cars behind me, and he moved right in to take the lead on the first lap. I cut him off something terrible. We all spun around, and about everybody piled in. Then they restarted and by the second lap, everybody just ran right over the top of me. Kenny, who was always a great guy and a good friend, caught me in the pits and said, well, you really got your baptism, didn't you?
Yeah. That was quite a deal. That old Jamestown Speedway, I remember going out through the trees over there one time and knocking over them little poplar trees just like they were sticks out there, you know, going off the third turn up there. That was quite a place to race. I borrowed a helmet from Bud Finale, and it sat on my head like a turtle shell, you know, right up on top. Well, I dropped that back end of the car over the edge, and they had no retaining wall or fence or anything there. And when the back wheels went down over, the frame caught in the berm, and boy, she just went like that. Well, I knocked my head against the roll bars about 4 times there, and I was laying down in the car ended up on the driver's side, and I was so weak from getting knocked around in there that I couldn't get out of the car, so they thought something was really tough. But I always thought Dean Layfield was the ultimate. I mean, he was, you know, he'd put a big old car through a half-inch hole, seemed like, on the track. If it wasn't there, he'd make it. Yeah. But he was just a hard charger, and I just kind of liked that. I liked Earnhardt, the way Earnhardt used to drive, the old Earnhardt there. Just kind of, look out, here I come, you know. If you don't get out of the way, you're going to get out of the way. Yeah. But that was the way that we used to race back in them days, you know. If the hole wasn't there, you made one. He had a lot to do with a lot of people getting energized about racing, I'll tell you, because, you know, it looked like he was really having a lot of fun out there.
Is there one racer that you just didn't want to have at that last lap?
Well, I think one of my heroes is Tom Dill.
Sorry if we you win! You win! That's everybody says that.
Yeah, he's one guy that you wouldn't want to try to get by on the last lap, I'll tell you, because either you both wouldn't finish the race or you wouldn't anyways. But that was the way he was. But I'll tell you something about Tom Dill. I think he had more talent to drive a race car. I mean, all-around talent. He didn't do a terrible amount of winning at Stateline, but he could do things with a car that I'd never seen anybody else do, you know.
And this happened at Coon Road Speedway, here in Westfield. It was then that Ken became a man of mystery. Tell the rest of the story.
Yeah, that was I was working at the time. It was the first truck driving job I had for Furniture Express. George Rendosh owned it.
Right.
And he was pretty hard-nosed about drivers and stuff like that. And so I wanted to go racing. He wanted everybody out of town by noon on Sunday, you know, that had to go somewhere. Well, you know, nobody raced Sunday morning. Everybody raced Sunday afternoon. So I take my truck home to Lakewood. I lived in Lakewood at the time, and hide it in the alley back there and jump in the car and go up to Coon Road to the Speedway. And well, I knew I had a pretty good car, and it worked good at Coon Road. It was just about the right size track for it. And so I told him, I said, whatever you do, if I happen to win, I said, don't get my name in the paper. Say anything you want to say. It don't bother me a bit. But I said, don't put my name in the paper. And I told him the reason, you know. I said, boss will read that and he'll wonder how I was at two places at the same time. You know? And it would have probably cost me my job. But as it was, I did win the feature. And so the next Monday, I didn't know what they was going to do. And next Monday in the paper it says, mystery man wins feature at Coon Road Speedway. I was known as Mr. X or Mystery Man or something, you know. And so anyways, it was kind of a deal. Squirt spun me out one time and on the main straightaway, and the car rolled up on the side right on the main straightaway. And the guy that owned this car here, he went over and after the races were over there, he went over and laid a sledgehammer on top of Squirt's roof while he was still in the car, and he says, you touch our car again, he said, I'll beat this thing down to the ground, you know. Ronnie Blackmer was running really pretty good in the 50-lapper at Erie's one night, and Ronnie Blackmer kind of took me out in a turn. No reason at all, and so by the time I ruined a brake, I busted a brake line when we went in the infield and fixed it and went back out there. And I shouldn't tell this story because it's not very nice, but he come by and I thought, that looks like a target on his back end there. So I kind of took him out. And then Charlie Piazza, who had been really riding roughshod on our car in the past, he bumped me and, well, you son of a gun. Well, he went by and he didn't get all the way by. But.
All going, so your race is on.
It was a car that Eddie Kisco used to drive, and I don't know why he quit driving, and Bob Bigley started driving it. And Bob was the guy that didn't show up. You know, they took the car there, and Bob was supposed to meet him there, and he wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
So I drove that car, and it was a nice car. Handled nice, ran nice. I finished third in the feature. And coming out of 4, Ronnie Blackmer was trying to get me. And I just laid it flat to the floor. I mean, it was from the 4th turn to the finish line. I thought, I'm not going to lose a position in that little bit. And I just laid it flat on the floor. I crossed the finish line, and boom, it blew up. I mean, I finished third, but it blew up. And I knew it blew up because I could feel all the shaking. And so I just coasted into the first turn, and I coasted into the pits and around next to the wall and got out and looked underneath, and the oil was running out the bottom. And oh my God, I don't even know these guys, you know, and I was scared to death, you know. I thought, well, these guys, they're going to be nothing but mad, you know. It was 2 brothers that had it, and I saw them. They come walking through the pits. They're coming over towards me, and they're both laughing like crazy. I'm thinking, oh boy, they don't know what happened, you know. So they come up there and laugh and laughing. I says, you know, I just blew your motor. I know. He goes, that's what we're laughing about. He goes, I can't believe it. He goes, our good motor is in the shop. That's just an old piece of junk we stuck in there. He goes, I can't believe I finished the whole race.
That's a great story.
Struggled along, and one night, Sammy Lemoncuso, his car broke down in a heat race, and I was lined up on the pole for the feature, and I always wanted somebody else to drive my car because I didn't know if it was me or the car, you know. Well, I asked Sammy if he would drive my car in the feature. I told him, I said, I'm starting on the pole. Sure. So Sammy jumped in it. He led all 25 laps and won that feature. And I thought, boy, it must be it's me, you know.
Funny you should tell that story.
I got one of those too, but I got...
I'm glad you got it.
But he came in, he goes, I said, is the car okay? He goes, Ken, that's the only car I ever drove where I got to start turning the steering wheel when I get to the Flagman in order to get around the corner. That night I wanted Sammy to drive my car.
Right.
See, Sammy, he was a veteran. He shouldn't have been starting on the pole, you know.
I wondered about that.
Well, I was just a beginner. They'd always start me on the pole. They knew I wasn't going to finish the race anyhow. You know? Sammy took off. I mean, I remember standing there watching him, running that whole feature. He led every lap and won the race, and I was just flabbergasted that my car could even do that, you know. And Len Briggs come over there just a storming. Oh, Ken, you can't do that. I can't do what? When you're going to change drivers, you got to tell me. We can't start a veteran on the pole. Well, like I did it on purpose. I didn't. He was really mad, you know. I mean, I don't know if he ever yelled at Sammy about it or not. I can't remember, but.
Did you get paid?
I'm sure we did.
Okay.
I don't really remember.
Just wondered.
Why 77?
Well, to tell you the truth, when I was just building this car, that's what I was thinking about, a number. And I really wanted 7. Why I wanted 7, I don't know. And somebody already had 7. So then I decided, well, I'll go with 11. And somebody else had 11. So I thought, well, how about 77? Nobody had that. So I just carried on all the time. Oh, Floyd. Oh, yeah. Floyd, he's a good guy, but boy, don't get him mad at you. I'll tell you. He got mad at me one night and chased me through the fence or pits with a big old crescent wrench. I'll tell you. I thought he was trying to run me into the wall, which I still think he was. And I'm trying to stay away from the wall, and he's yelling at me because I was turning into him. Well, I don't know. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Tom Dill, he was a good guy, but if he could gain a position by pushing you all the way, he sure do it in a hurry, I'll tell you. In fact, a 50 lapper at Erie, I was leading that race, and I guess probably what really hurt the most is the winner of that 50 lapper automatically qualified for the Stony 2. And I was leading that race. The white flag came out. I went through 1 and 2, come down the backstretch, went into 3. Well, I knew Tom was chasing me because every turn I see that orange fender, you know, and I'm just driving my brains out trying to stay ahead of him, you know. Took the white flag, go through 1 and 2, down the backstretch. Like I say, coming into 1, there's that orange fender. Coming into 3, there's that orange fender, and it's really coming because he put me around so quick it wasn't even funny. I thought, you gotta be kidding me. In fact, my wife had both boys up at the fence because she was telling, hey, Dad's gonna win the feature, Dad's not gonna win the feature. I think I finished like 3rd because I think by the time I got myself gathered up, I think Ronnie Blackmer went by too. I think Ronnie finished 2nd and I finished 3rd, you know. That's the only thing I think about. I still remember that night, you know. Larry Parmenter, oh Larry, that I remember about him is, I mean, he was a good guy to race. He was wild, but I don't think he really did anything on purpose. I mean, if he was around you, you knew he was around you, but I don't think he'd ever really take you out, you know. But what I really remember about him was my very first year. I told you I took that late model out there, and I got, my motor is nowhere near like these guys' motors. This car is nothing compared to what they got. But I figure I'm starting. What do I care, you know? And I'm a nervous wreck anyhow, you know. And we're out there for just hot laps, you know. Back then you could run hot laps at the beginning of the night, you know. And I was coming out of 4, and not running the thing real hard, but kind of hard, and all of a sudden it sounded like my motor just got louder, louder, louder. I thought, what the heck is going on? I took my foot off the gas. It was Larry Parmenter driving by me, you know? Oh, Bobby, yeah, he won a lot of races, but you know, he wouldn't hit you, but you know, I don't know if anybody else has ever told you this. He'd put you in a position where you had to let him pass, because if he was trying to pass you, I mean, he would throw, you'd be out here like this, he'd throw that thing, and you'd see him coming. If you stayed there, you were going to wreck. So you just get on the gas, on the brake, and let him go.
Like a slide job?
Yeah, and I mean, and he wasn't cleared. I mean, you knew he was going to hit you, you know. And I don't know if he would have hit you or not, but I always just jumped on the brake and let him go. And I don't know if everybody else did that or not, but I thought, you know, if I could do that with everybody, I could win a lot of races too.
What do you say, a big hand for Bobby Starnes? Nice scoring, Bobby.
But anyhow, these Oaks guys, I mean, to this day, I mean, he treats Connie and I like family. If they have a family get together, they call us. We go to Kane. I mean, if it's a birthday or something, we go to their birthday parties.
I started racing at Cool Road. Actually, I started with Don Albaum, had the racing up at the stadium back in 1957, something like that. And I got my cousin, my cousin Jake Foster had Sweet 16, a Chevy.
Right.
And I raced that. I bought my car from Ron Blackmer in 1964.
Really?
Yeah, I bought it when he got through racing up at Erie's.
Right.
I gave him $1,800 for his car. It was just a simple car, it had a roll bar in it, but there was no modification to it, nothing. It had a 327 engine in it, but that's where I started with getting the late models.
Was that a Chevelle that you bought from Ronnie?
Yeah. Then I made a 65 out of it, and a 66 and a 67. Put the skins on, bought the stuff for it, so I had a late model every year.
Okay.
For 1965, I put a new tent, but in 66, I built the thing, made a tank out of it.
What kind of a racer were you, Larry?
Hard nose.
Were you?
Yeah, I had a tank, weighed 6,500 pounds.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
65.
6,500 pounds. Nobody dared to hit me.
What kind of an engine did you have to pull that?
427, with crawler roller cams in it. I could rev it up at 7,200 RPMs.
I mean, you talked about a tank, a 6,500 pound
Yeah,
car. Holy
reinforced, all reinforced frames and everything.
I mean, this is the opposite of the Ronnie Blackmers,
Oh yeah,
Hyle Russells, and those early guys who would really strip the cars.
yeah.
What was your theory?
Well, I had a mechanic, Dick Gibbs, and he didn't want things breaking down. So we fish plated the whole frame. I went up to Dia Springs and got a spring for the wheel wells, so they couldn't the rear wheel wells, they couldn't get pushed in. It was a long spring. It was shaped the same shape as the wheel wells, and the trunk had a steel plate in it, and it couldn't. Like Marty Rater one time, he spun out in front of me and I hit him, took the whole front end of his car off. He come up and said to me, he said, "That's a pregnant elephant." He was mad. In fact, he wanted to fight. I said, "You want to fight? Not here. Let's go up in the woods." He wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Dick Litz one time up there. Remember Dick Litz?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Dick Litz come up to me one time. I was racing this thing, and him and I were going round and round on the curve, stuff like that, and I guess I kind of shoved him out on the curve because I slid into him or something. Anyhow, he went to the pit entrance and blocked the pit entrance, so I couldn't come in because I took the flag, the victory flag, and that's our victory flag. He parked it to print at the entrance to the pit. So I just eased up against him and just pushed him right around with that car of mine. And then he come down to the pits there and ready to fight. Yeah, Johnny ditched, we raced together. He got pissed off at me because I hit him up at Erie's one time, going around the curve. He was on the inside and I put him in the wall. And Chuck Piazza, yeah, he raced a Chevy for Berglund Chevrolet.
Yep.
And him and I were good friends. Tom Dill, of course, him and I went around and around. We're good friends though, Tom Dill. Jim Scott, I went down to see him race in 1967 down at Daytona. Bruce Busink had him run, and I went down to watch him race. He said, "Man," he said, I never realized what it was like being in that speed." And Tom Dill, he shit his britches when he went to, yeah, he said he actually shit his britches when he was racing down there. One time he went down. I think Bobby Snars was one of the toughest.
Yep.
Bobby Snars and Johnny Whitehead and Squirt Johns, they're all tough. They won different times. Yeah, one time I was in a semi race with Squirt Johns and let's see, Flying Farmer, Johnny Whitehead,
Right.
and those guys. And I was going around the track and it was wet, very wet, and I was in first place, and they tried to pass me, but as I got up the straightaway, I was fishtailing. They didn't dare to go around me. Finally, Squirt John tried to go around me, and I fishtailed him in. He went into the infield and sat there. So I won the race.
Well, I suppose you had such a big, heavy car. They gave you a lot of leeway.
They did. They had to.
Yeah.
I was impregnable. Yeah.
Pregnant elephant.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great
That's
story.
perfect, Larry.
Well, one time at Stateline, my front suspension tie rod end broke, and it put me right in the wall and up the fence. I hung up there on the fence with my Chevelle
Really?
up there.
like a fly in a spider's web.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
How the hell did they get you down? Did you stay in the car? I mean,
I got out of the car.
Okay.
It didn't go up that high. I mean, it went up probably 5 feet, something like that. Up at Cool Road, I was reading the race, and Flagman, Chuck Weary. I was trying to be smart and go over towards him, and when I went towards him a little bit, because he's waving the flag, standing on top of the railing, and a tie fell off there, and I hit that with that. I had a big tire on the right side, and hit that and blowed that tire. And I was reading, it was a long race too. The guy beat me by 1 car.
Oh, God.
Because I got smart. I was monkeying around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's my own fault.
Well, thank you. Thanks so
Okay.
much.
Okay.
Well, we got interested in racing back in the early 50s with an old flathead Ford. We run down at a place down at Warren, Busti Speedway, and they closed in 53, so we needed a place to run race cars, so we decided to build a track at Stateline Speedway.
Okay, where was Skyline at?
Skyline's right out of Sugar Grove in Sugar Grove Township. Right. We was up there for 2 years, and Skyline run about a year and a half after that. And we built Stateline in 1956. July 21st is the first race. And we had 5 partners to start with, and we bought out Marv Thorpe after the first year. And so there was 4 of us left. And we run the track since 54 through 84. I don't know, up at Skyline, this partner of mine at the time, Cliff Goons, owned this farm up there, and decided to build a racetrack because Warren had closed the year. So we decided to make a racetrack up in this field.
That was Dickie Bend, right?
No, yeah, we raced at Dickie Bend in 53, and then they closed.
What-
But I remember this guy that run that straight 8 Buick Emery Man, which is the same guy that won the first race at Stateline. He was running a straight 8 Buick at the time. You could hear him coming.
Gotcha.
And he was shifting gears at the time. Skyline started out running modifieds in 54 and 55. In the middle of 55, Smithport started the late model division, and then we ended up going to Smithport and talking to some of them guys about coming to there and running at another night. At Skyline run 2 nights a week for the rest of that year, I believe.
Okay.
Actually, it was 1 night and 1 Sunday afternoon is what it was.
Modifieds one day and
Yeah,
late
models the next day.
Okay.
And there was interesting. We had a lot of different kinds of cars back in them days that run not only just Chevys and Fords, but there was Plymouths and Hudsons and Studebakers, and we even had a taxi cab there running at the time. And, is kind of interesting to know.
So drive what you bring, huh?
Yeah, and if you had a problem with a car, you needed a drive shaft or something, you'd just go out in the parking lot, and somebody owned a car out there, they'd let you use the drive shaft and put it back in after the race, and maybe a radiator or anything come right out of the parking lot. Lloyd and Don went to Brooklyn to buy this land they found that belonged to two sisters. They moved to Brooklyn. There's 77 acres up there, and they asked him what they was going to do with it, and they assumed they was going to farm it because they said, well, he's going to put up fences and clear the land and stuff, so they assumed it was going to be a farm. Well, it turned out to be a racetrack with fences and clearing the land is what it turned out to be.
So was born Stateline Speedway.
Yeah. We had a sponsored NASCAR race in 1958, and a lot of the NASCAR guys we figured was going to be there, and a lot of them never showed up, because I guess you had to call them up individually, which we didn't know. But anyway, we had to call up some of our local people to put on enough cars for the show. But there was a fellow, Lee Petty, that was running for points that year, was there, put on a good show with a 56 Oldsmobile, I believe he was running at the time.
That's Richard's dad.
Yes, and he's now passed away. But anyway, the fellow that won that race by the name of Shorty Rollins, won the race at Stateline. He went on the next following year in '59 and won the first 100-mile qualifying race at Daytona Beach, and haven't heard of him much since, but he's still in the book set. Our rules were pretty strict. We even had them, have the inner panels in the doors and the fenders and everything back when we first started, and kept it that way for a long time, where other tracks let them cut out the fenders and all that stuff, but we had to maintain the whole car back in those days, and I can't remember if they had any real tricks. They just good drivers and bad drivers, I think, at the time. I think the only thing that I remember, which a fellow by the name of Bobby Snars had in his car one year, which seemed to be good, was the triple disc clutch, which nobody'd even heard of back in the maybe 60s. And he won a lot of races with a triple disc clutch until everybody else caught on to that. And that is the only thing. It's the only thing I remember.
The biggest tear down that I can ever remember, and Leonard could probably tell you more about it, was the Busing car.
Oh yeah.
Straight away.
We only allowed open rear ends at the time, no locked rear ends or any limited slip rear ends. And there was I guess you're supposed to put up $50 or $100 for a tear down. Well, the guys got together and got the money together to tear down this Julian Busing's car, which won the 100-lap feature, I believe, at the time. Well, then they tore the rear end down, and they took a while doing that. And by the time they got it tore down, there was nothing welded or nothing in it. And they figured it was a limited slip. And then they come up with the idea that it had cooled down enough. They figured the clearance is close enough that it'd lock up when it got warm. And this is a story I heard, but they found nothing to that. When we first started at Stateline, we didn't have the means to do our concession work, so the firemen from the area there, they was doing the concession work. I remember they was peeling raw potatoes, and they would, on Saturday mornings, they would peel 1 ton of raw potatoes. And
what year was this now?
56 and 57, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years. They peel 1 ton. Of course, when we get rained out, the pigs got a lot to eat.
Good point.
This particular area around the Jamestown Warren area here, where we are, was a real racing fan area back in the 50s, big time.
They're still all going. Butts N.Y in car number 98, leading the pace. 2 laps completed, 23 laps to go with Keith Warner and 20 running second. A spin out by Marv Thorpe in car number 1 on that fourth turn. And Marv is stalled.
But we used to be up there every Saturday, and of course, used to hear Lloyd give us the great start. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Stateline Speedway. You know, he'd have that sort of drum.
My family was farmers. It was just something I decided to do on my own.
Was there some?
I always liked cars and tinkered with them, and like I say, that just happened to be.
You build your own car, Marty?
Sometimes I did. Sometimes I drove for Julian Buzink from Finley Lake, and George Bernhardt from up in Erie. I drove 67, 68 Chevelles for him.
What was your number, Marty?
Well, with Buzink I run number 59. And with George Bernhardt, I think he had number 47. And then when I went driving for myself, we picked number 21 and stuck with that.
Why number 21?
I don't know. It just seemed to be, maybe it's because I was a David Pearson fan or something.
Well, that's a good one to have.
Yeah. Then in, I believe it was 1961, I started driving there.
Was it late models at the time?
Yeah, it was a 61 Ford, or 60 Ford that Julian Buzink owned. Fred Knapp and I co-drove it. Oh, golly, Rollerball Speedway at Watts Flats, Sulphur Springs Speedway, Stateline in Erie, up to Con Ed or Raceway 7. We traveled all over. Race in Erie's. And we won a couple 50-lappers up there. I had more success at Erie and on Raceway 7 than I did at Stateline. Dan Palmgren, I spoke with him a while ago, and we had to reminisce about one time he let me drive his race car, and the throttle stuck and I hit the wall of Stateline, and that was pretty difficult, because that ruined Dan's race car. In 1964.
This was Chuck Piazza.
Yeah, Chuck and Maynard Lobb, they owned the car, and Wee Willie Wilson and Chuck Piazza and myself were basically teammates.
And did you have some success?
No, I'll tell you, I didn't have a good crew, and we weren't up to date on engines and stuff like we should have been. I have to say that was probably one of my low times. Oh, Squirt John, Bobby Snars was just getting going about that time also. Yeah, I believe Ron Blackmer come along right about that same period, maybe just a couple of years after that. Emery Mann was racing. Like I say, Fred Knapp. let's see, Dean Layfield raced the Racer 2 where I was involved. Well, he was one of the top dogs at the time of it. You know, ran number 9/16 because he said everything on his car had a 9/16 wrench head on it. Jimmy Lamancuso. Jimmy Polero, I believe, was racing at the time. See, Tom Dill, he was a hot shot back in about those heydays also.
What was he like?
First, crazy. We had our run-ins, but also we became real good friends and used to do a lot of goofy things together.
Such as? What kind of goofy things?
Oh, we might skip out from work every once in a while and go swimming during the summertime, or just goof off. He was a hard charger, hard-headed, didn't care who he pushed out of the way. But he could be a nice guy also. We were talking about Tom Dill, and he was driving a Chevrolet for Joe Mobilia, and they wanted me to try it out. And I said, well, this car isn't handling worth a darn. I pulled it in off after a very few laps, and Dill told me, he said, oh, you just don't know how to drive a race car. And he jumped in and he made about 2 laps and flipped that thing end over, and he got out and he said to me, you know, I guess you're right, that thing don't handle real good. That was probably one of the funniest things that I didn't have as much upfront success as I would have liked to have. It took me until, I believe, 1965 before I won my first feature race there. Because, like I say, when I first started out, I would run the heat races and maybe the semi, and Fred Knapp would drive the features. We shared the car.
Right. By the way, we've not had many people comment on Fred Knapp. What was he like?
Fred was a real good racer. In fact, he was Stateline Series point champion one year. I don't remember the exact year. I think it was 73, maybe. Okay, well, thank you much, and you tell everyone.
At Skyline Speedway, some of those guys had a problem up there. I was a flagman up there. Len Briggs worked with Kuhn up there, the guy that owned the track up at Skyline out of Sugar Grove. And Lloyd Williams, he might have been up there working too. And they had, this guy that owned that place was kind of a problem. So they got out and we got together and talked about if we could find enough land, we'd build a track. You know, us 5 guys. So that's what we did. We found the land.
We run down on your feature event, 25 laps. On the pole is car number 98, Bud Finale of Jamestown, New York, a 1957 Chevy. Off the pole, car number 20, Keith Warner of Titusville, PA, a 1956 Ford. Second on the pole, car number 20, or car number 40, rather. Herb Gustafson, I understand, is from Titusville, PA. Off the pole is car number 96, Leon Lindstrom of Northeast PA, a 1957 Ford. Third on the pole, car number 102, Bud Gardner of Warren, PA. Off the pole, car number 220, Chuck Piazza of Jamestown, New York, a 1956 Chevy. Next on the pole, car number 1, Marv Thorpe of Sugarville, PA.
Your car number was number 1, and why? Why number 1?
Number 1, the first car I had was that Hudson with a seat and a steering wheel and a roll bar.
Yeah.
And wagon went about that wide over, and the only number it fit was number 1.
Wow.
So I stuck with that forever. And, I was up at Lancaster, New York on a blacktop track. I wasn't geared for it, so I put big tires and wheels on the back of the car. The right back wheel come off, but it didn't go down, it stayed up. And I started rolling. I went end over end. I went over Squirt Johns.
Oh.
And Squirt reminded me that my helmet come out the window and he thought my head was in it.
He told us that.
Yeah.
He said he was scared to death.
Yeah, he was running second at the time. I was leading the race, but then that wheel come off. I just took a ride. Then when the 4th of July came, we had fireworks.
Remember that?
That created little problems around the farmers. It shook their cattle up, I guess, all that banging and snapping and cracking. So then we had a little problem there, but not too bad. They didn't last long because the fireworks weren't that big a deal.
Yeah.
But when Lee Petty was there, I was racing that night. And he come in the pit and he said, I was parked right beside him, and he said, some of the boys like to play a little bit, and I said, well, maybe. He says, I'll play with them. I guess Squirt bumped him out there on the track, and he wasn't too proud of that.
Well, I think Lee's got him back too, as according to Squirt.
Yeah. There was Shirley Rollins of Texas, he won, and Bob Duell, he was from Frewsburg, and he drove a car for Midtown at Daytona. Bob Duell, he drove down there. Kenny Johnson drove a Hudson. Emery, he had mostly Buicks that he run. And John Seeley and my brother Don were kind of in partners on a car, on a Ford they had at one time. L.D. Austin, I don't know. Bill Bohr. Lee Petty was there. And Bud Finelli was there. Johnny Walker. And Bob Snar, Tyler, Bud Gardner. Yeah, I was there. Dean, when I was flagman, Dean won a lot of races, you know. And every time we'd get out there to line him up, you know, he always had to start in the back. He'd grumble and growl about that. And then he'd win the race, and when I'd take the flag up to his car, I'd say, "You happy now, Dean?" "Oh yeah," he said, "I'm pretty happy now." But why do I have to start in the back? He didn't like that. When they worked on their race cars, instead of jacking them up, they just flip them over on the side and work on them, and then flip them back down. They was ready to go, you know. Yeah.
Or maybe
yeah.
the 2 wheels there.
That was that Dodge I had.
You could tell from the bottom of it, can you?
Yeah. It come back down. I didn't go over. Floyd Finelli was behind me, and he says, I kept watching that. Front wheel kept coming higher and higher every lap. I was leading the race, and she got up pretty high, and then I dropped her back down and had to slow down.
What got you up there? Did you run over something? Or
Oh, no, it was just, I went into the turn too fast, and
Really?
it just picked it with. I was picking that front wheel off all night, and that didn't bother, handled okay, and I kept getting faster and faster, and this time we got too fast, see? And she come right up, and then I let off and turned, and it come back down. And Floyd Finelli's behind me. He said, "There's another guy in the world that'd bring his car back down when you're that far up," he said.
Do you remember your first win at Stateline?
Yeah, that was a 50-lap race.
Was it really?
Yeah.
It was a big one.
Looks like a 4th of July race.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is the picture. Because he's holding the trophy. I wonder if that's the 50 lapper.
Where am I here?
Right here. Right there.
Oh, yeah, I got that trophy out in my garage.
Kenny Johnson. I know Kenny personally, and he actually raced somewhat in NASCAR races, didn't he?
He went to Daytona
Yeah.
a few times, with a car, but he didn't do very well down there. But they did go. I don't know who all did go, you know, at that time. But Kenny was a little rough on the track.
Was he?
I know one night he put me in the fence, and when we were coming in, when the race was over, Russ was on one side and Frank Leffner was on the other. They'd worked on my car, and they had a few words for Kenny, and before he got out of his car. So it kind of ended that. He didn't bother anymore. Tom was an aggressive driver. He's like
It's so political.
he's like Earnhardt, like Mr. Earnhardt used to be.
Yeah.
He'd give you a little bump and then go by, and then yeah. Yep, he is all right. But he's a good driver, but he wanted to win. He was out there to win.
Yeah.
Well, one night Emery run me right into the guardrails coming out of the fourth turn. We were running hard, both of us, and he kind of lost it, and we both went into the guardrails. And I just looked over at him and I said, "Thanks a lot, Emery."
Yeah.
But that was just one of them things that happened, you know. One bad night when I was flagman, there was a wreck right in front of me. A guy rolled over, and he was in his car, and another guy hit it. Mister, I didn't think things were going to look too good, but it worked out okay. He was lucky he didn't get hurt much. I mean, he was stunned, but that was bad to climb down out of that flag. I had that red flag out and getting everybody in the infield, so they couldn't, no more cars run into him, you know. Occasionally that you run into somebody that's a little rough. Floyd Finelli always was quick, you know, he's quick on the temper, and he always told me, he said, "If I get in a fight in the pit and you see me, stop me." I went in the pit one night and there's a gang of people around the car. There's Floyd beating the guy's head against the car. And I looked around there and I said, "Nobody's doing nothing." I went right up and I grabbed him and I said, "Come on, stop." And he looked at me like that and he quit. I always said racing is like being an alcoholic. You can get in it or you can get out of it, but you can't stay out.
So then I knew Len Briggs real well, too.
How would you have known him?
My father had a grocery store from Sugar Grove, Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
and they were customers of his. I bought a Ford car from a guy down in Houston, Texas, that had raced the state line with it a couple times.
Was that Phil Cronin?
Yeah, I was Phil Cronin.
How did a guy from Houston, Texas get involved in Stateline Speedway?
He met Kenny. Kenny used to run Markham, which is Arcanel, but years ago John Markham had it. And he met Kenny at one of the races somewhere, I don't know, either Cleveland, Cloverleaf, or I don't know, someplace, or Pittsburgh maybe, down in Heidelberg, and you got to be friends, and then you know how that goes. You say, "Well, you know, I live up there, we race on Saturday nights." Well, there was a couple Saturday nights there was no Markham race, and so he would just come over from Cleveland. He was based in Cleveland. He would come on over.
Your car number was 15. How did you get settled on that?
That was a number of a residency I lived at in Jamestown, 15 Price Street. Well, I got that from Joe Sonner from years and years ago. I asked him one time how he got number 18 on his car. Well, he lived on 18th Street. So they put number 18 on the car, him and the guys that owned that car. Mm-hmm. And I sort of just copied him. I thought, hell, I made it easy. Well, of course, Stars, Bobby, and which him and I are good friends, and we've stayed friends with us, right to this day. We're friends, and Squirt, Johns, of course. He was a winner there. Oh, he was quite an innovator, and then of course he kept his cars light, and they didn't weigh much. And he was like they call them cheaters. They call them innovators, you know. And I don't know. He knew a lot of little tricks in them days, and as far as the cars went and things went on cars. But I think one of the main things is the cars were awful light compared to a lot of the other ones. There was nothing in them cars that didn't need to be. They were just flat. They were light. That's all there is to it. I mean, you know, they didn't have nothing extra in them. As far as roll cage goes, or even the drivers were light. Mm-hmm. You know, Ronnie and Hal Russell never weighed a whole awful lot. Eddie Kisco was the most total guy, and that was probably one of that. He was a good Chevrolet. He made a Chevrolet motor run good. Time there, I wasn't racing at that particular time, and I remember Emery Van flipping one, turning one over, coming up turn 4 there to head down the front straightaway at Stateline, and the car got flopping around there in the air and bouncing and that. I thought, oh my God, God, I got another car, so I might even hit him. And it looked a lot worse than it was. Let's put it that way. But it was breathtaking for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
In there, that part of it was about one that sticks in my mind the most. Oh Lord! Well, Tom and I are good friends today, but back in the day, you'd just worry when you see Tom Miller on. You didn't know if he was going to wreck you or not. he was quite wild. But, he put on a show. What the people came there to see. He was a little bit ahead of everybody else at the time. It seemed like he could make a car work real decent, like, and he was a good showman. He didn't there stick his nose in there, go for it. He was good. He was a class. He was a class act. Yeah, in the 70s, I did. Yeah, basically, it was getting to the point then when it took money to do the job. Along came with Rater and the Chrysler Plymouth deal. We had the money. I had the money to play with there. He put up with whatever was needed. And when they had, we got all the best of the stuff. And it pays off. Good equipment paid off.
Was Rollerball your first racing experience?
No, we raced down to Wrightsville. Dunkels. Well, that was one of them. I never raced there only a couple times over the road on Dunkels, right across from the booze joint there. Cabins in the Pines. It was so damn dusty there. That was awful. But they raced there, I don't know, one summer, I guess that's all we raced there.
But you won a backup race there, I remember that.
I run up the state line.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
What, did you run late model cars?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You run both.
Yeah.
You run Sportsman and Jalopies and late model.
We called them jalopies at that time.
Well, did you too, Paul?
But that was called Sportsman's at the time?
Jalopies, yeah.
Were you, when you were at Stateline, who was the big names at Stateline at the time you were racing?
Oh, God, there's a lot of them. Tom Dill and Jim Scott and of course, Ronnie Blackmer and Bob Snars. And
Was Layfield still alive?
Layfield, he got killed down to Smithport. A rock come through the side of his car and hit him right there and done him in.
Yeah.
Just a freak accident,
Was he deemed to be sort of the best of the Stateline drivers at the time?
I would say so, yeah. And Emery Mann, of course, he was a good driver. There was quite a few.
Oh, Marv,
he drove up there.
Would you make any money at Stateline?
Well, yeah, we got $50 for showing up with our cars.
Right.
And we won a little bit, a heat or so once in a while.
Yeah.
I never won a feature up there, but it was a lot of fun, that's all I'll say, a lot of fun.
How long did you race to?
I forget when the hell I did quit.
Your last late model was a 61 Chevy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't new.
Yeah, but that's about the time frame.
Yeah.
So what made you turn in your helmet and your driving gloves?
I don't really know. When I raced at Stateline, I took out of the lights up there.
Right.
And somebody had a pole and I put on my spurs and go up and change the light bulbs. And
Oh, so they're working you.
yeah. in the Eries too. That was a pretty good job. The only reason they done it, the hunters, hunting season, they'd good target, they'd shoot the lights out, you know.
Sure.
And that's the reason they put them down and took them up, or put them up and took them down.
Leonard was my best friend,
Was he?
but we played all winter together, but we didn't talk all summer.
That's a great statement.
Well, that was just because he made me start last, no matter what happened.
And so, were there any rule books, or was it sort of within his discretion?
Leonard made his rules up as we went along.
Is that right? Around that third or fourth term.
I'll tell you what, you didn't want to be in front of Tom Dill.
You win!
Dill would scare you. I mean, I was in the points most of the time, and Dill wasn't a lot of time, and he didn't care if he won or not. You know, if he can't win, he don't want to finish. He wanted to win. That's the only way.
Right.
And if you were in his way, look out.
When the
But he used to scare me. I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
I only weighed nothing. This guy was an animal. Then he'd come down to my shop and laugh and carry on, and here, I'm going to kill him. And he thought nothing of it. But
good.
It's unanimous. I can't believe it. It's the same story.
I used to start, you know, we used to qualify out and had the javelin then out to Conneaut. And I'd be on the pole, and Tom Dill be, well, you could pick. I'd take off the pole, and Tom Dill inside. And when you go by the flag at Conneaut, you get going pretty good. And Tom Dill on the inside of you, you knew you were over that bank. I mean, there's no way you had to let off, because he's going to put you right over the bank.
The race is over, and you're in the pits. It's a kind of a long 25, 50 lap, whatever, just guys that were more likely to jump out of the car and just sort of point fingers and just a little hot-headed.
Yeah, Floyd Finelli.
Your success in sportsman is unparalleled.
Yeah.
Why? What made your vehicle so unique?
I don't know. It was easy back then, it seemed like. But well, mine was lighter, without a doubt. When it first, I had the edge. I had Frank, and I had all I wanted to do was race then. And it was, I don't know, lucky.
At the same time, you're racing late models. So, I mean, not only the success of the sportsmen, but the success of the late models. Was that hard to just,
No.
from a driving perspective?
Well, back then, the little cars were faster than the big ones. 'Cause we had races together, and the sportsmen would outrun the big ones.
Did you have a preference?
Oh, I like the little ones, yeah. I like open wheels, because you can see where you're putting them.
Right.
Yeah, open wheel was my favorite.
Who was the guy that was really running you?
Skip and McGurk, Stroker. Jay come in later, yeah. Jay, he was good, but me and Jay got along real good. We never had a problem on the track. He's real fair, and he's my same age, maybe a year older.
Sorry.
But Jay made me pay attention. He come to the track with good stuff, balanced motors, and he had know-how, and he made me pay attention. Because I kind of had it made until he come there for years.
you at a point where you were making enough money to say you far exceeded your work?
Oh yeah, I lived on my race car for about 3 years.
Did you really?
Yeah. But they don't have retirement, you know.
That's funny.
And but I lived on it. But I used to make $117 a night winning a heat semi feature.
Was that right?
With the little car.
Yeah, just a little car. And we do that 3 nights a week. And when I went to work, I only brought home $39 a week. I had a bad wreck.
Did you really?
Well, I didn't get my front roll bar padded, and
This would have been what year?
we didn't have seat belt. All we had is seat belts, you know.
right.
These were
No harnesses.
no harnesses, and we didn't have fire suits or nothing, you know, back there early. All I ever wore was a T-shirt, and my first helmet just had leather from the ears down, you know. Probably 63. My neck stretched out and hit the front roll bar, and Litz and Parmenter got together and they went in the infield. And it was so dusty, I never lifted. I was running second, and somehow they got back out on the track in front of me, and I hit them full bore and put a hole in my head there. And they had me dead, but I come out of it.
How long did it take for you to kind of get back in the saddle?
Well, I had Bob drive for me for 2 weeks, my little car. Because he's the only one I knew could take it to the front, because it was powerless. It didn't have no power. And I knew Bob could get it there.
At some point, you get back in there, in the car. Was there that first time you strap on the helmet?
Nah. When the flag drops, the bullshit stops. You know, it's all over.
Yeah.
You don't think of nothing except running. I mean, that's the way I was. But what was funny, way back when I started, you got paid that night. And so if you didn't wait around, especially them 100-lappers, they didn't know who won. I mean, you couldn't keep track of them. And you'd have to wait until I got home 4 or 5 in the morning. I had to be work at Sabania at 7. And but if you didn't wait, they kept sliding you back. Because the guy, well, the squeaky gear gets the grease, you know.
Right, sure.
If you were gone, and they didn't know, and it was hard to keep track of 87 cars, and half of them stop, go into pit, and then they come out later, and they let their wives score.
Yeah.
It said, Charlotte, his wife, he said, put me down for 98 laps, no matter what. So up in Erie, I won the race, and some guy rolled over, Leon Lindstrom, but they stopped the race at 98 laps. Well, here I'd lapped Whitehead 6, 8 times. He gets second because his wife rode him down for 98 laps, and there was nobody else in 98 laps but me. I said, Whitehead, how did you do that? Well, he said, I told her to put me down for 98 laps, no matter what.
Great story.
Wow.
No, that happened.
Yeah.